SK Mac with SK Mac Radio. I hope you're all enjoying your weekend. I hope that you're having a very pleasant evening. So here we are. Have you been paying attention lately to the news, to the media? A lot has transpired in a matter of days, in a very rapid amount of time. We can see an agenda being played out right before our very eyes. With the bombings in Syria, the global elites are calling for us to unite. Interesting, though, the plethora of images bombarding the news and social media about the atrocities taking place, bioweapons being used on innocent people, and a blame game that is more deceptive than any can imagine. The media paints a picture that Assad is to blame for the terrible chemical attacks on his own people, but that can be further from the truth. Recently in Russia, there was a so-called terror attack. Now, stay with me in a way that I use my words, because you're going to see a grander picture being painted, and the media will only give you their perspective. So a so-called terror attack in Russia, where a deadly explosion rocked an underground subway. And then another attack in Stockholm, Sweden, where a truck pummels into a crowd of people. And of this attack, there were 2 casualties. With the media headlining each attack, one right after another, almost simultaneously, you have to get an understanding of what exactly is going on. And, they've used this type of ploy many times throughout history. And I'm not saying that these things haven't occurred, but I'm saying they do things in a way to kind of guide and direct a certain agenda. So please understand where I'm going with this. And I need you guys to just hang in there with me for a while, as we really just go deeper into this rabbit hole. So, we look at Syria, and it's disgusting, what's taking place. And it's being said that it's the most complex and most violent conflict of our time. If you remember a while back from one of my previous shows, I talked about the oil resources and how rich Syria and how Syria, rich is in resources. And it so happens that Syria is the only country, one of the only countries, I think there's maybe one other, with no banking cartel system. Basically the crooks that have been taking over the whole world and holding everyone in ransom on a tight network of strings. And we're pretty much like marionette dolls doing as we're told. There has to be a kind of response to this conflict. And we responded very well, I guess. Actually not. The U.S. leadership responded by sending Tomahawk missiles from 2 of the Navy warships positioned in the Mediterranean Sea against Syria, targeting the so-called airfield used for chemical weapons. And the Pentagon responds by pridefully stating that they had all 59 missiles hit their target. On the other side of this, which we have so much going on, is we have North Korea testing their missile muscles in the Sea of Japan. And recently, we had Kim Jong-un stating that he was just waiting for the slightest hint of aggression from the U.S. to react with hostile and deadly force. We can see North Korea is preparing for something major. And we can see this because he actually just ordered a quarter of the residents of the capital there to evacuate their homes immediately. So he's definitely ready and prepared to take some kind of military action. The world is right now has not even recovered from the hell that's going on in Syria. With this, paralyzing and shocking event, it's taking on many of those who are wishing to intervene, and we know why they're wishing to intervene. We have countries such as Iran and Russia, and with everything that's going on, there's been just a rise in intelligent missions with the U.S. tracking North Korea, and there's no regional nor global power that really has the strength to solve these rising problems alone. And this is kind of like just the ongoing motto. But believe me, this is all happening for a very planned out reason and a purpose. And it's no other than a new world order. And the media plays their role brilliantly with misinformation, fake news, deception, and whatever it is you want to call it. It has people believing exactly what the machine is made up for them to believe. In addition to this, we're in a unique environmental crisis that is completely astounding. There's a great famine that a lot of people don't even know about that's happening in the Sudan. And basically what is being said is that it's the worst humanitarian crisis in over 70 years. And it's escalating. And not only that, there's an ongoing war that has been occurring in many of the African countries. Such countries as Nigeria, South Sudan, and Somalia. And let me add Yemen, which Yemen is not a part of the African continent, but it's important to mention that these things are going on, and there's 20 million people, to be exact, that are feeling this. We're seeing signs of the times. We're seeing severe weather here in the States, heavy rainfall, flooding, hail. The biggest risk here is that our generation is probably the last generation that can really address absolutely pivotal environmental threats on the planet. And we're actually the last ones that can do it because we're so close to dangerous thresholds that if we waste another generation, assuming that we're going to even get that far, we'll no longer be able to avoid a lot of the calamity. But there's nothing that's done that the Most High doesn't know is going to be done. And worldwide, people are feeling the heaviness and the weight of trials and tribulation. And I believe that 2017 will be, we'll see a continual pattern of extreme weather. Religiously, we're seeing a state of where the world is trying to come together and focus on peace. And, we see the Pope urging Prince Charles for world peace. He just recently had a meeting at the Vatican in Rome, and where they were encouraging the merging and encouraging Christians and Muslims to really just come together and coexist, as the saying goes, for solidarity and peace. And you can see it. I'm not making this up. This is right out of the Pope's own mouth, and I quote. He said, "Most of the planet inhabitants declare themselves believers." And it's like, what kind of believers? What do they believe in? So then he goes on to say that this should lead to a dialogue among religions, end quote. I won't continue his whole speech, but what he was basically saying is that we should all just seek a common ground and live together in harmony and peace for the future, based in justice and compassion. And he also stated that we're all children of the Most High, so it doesn't matter who you are, I guess when it comes down to what we should do about this thing as a whole is that they're really just wanting us or expecting us to just cooperate. But how do you cooperate in a big, complicated world having your own beliefs? So it's interesting that we come to this place where we have to really realize that we have no real leader right now. And, seriously, you have to think about that. You have to really think about it. There are more or less important people. We have presidents of various countries, including our own, but, they're not leading. He's not leading. And there's just really no leader, no real leader. You understand what I'm saying? What you can discern with all that's going on in this inclusive kind of thing is that really the future will be about inclusion, and we're living in such a dangerous time, specifically spiritually dangerous times. There was a headline in the news recently where a professor actually lowered a grade over what they called a sexist word, and that word was mankind. And we know mankind is a word that describes humanity. And there, there's this whole list of words that people should avoid, and well, really students should avoid to start being more gender correct and inclusive. You know, and this particular student was warned that they were using inappropriate gender language. And really, this is a word that's been used by almost everyone for centuries, yet we see exactly where this is going and where it's leading. We see all around us this evolution, and you'd better be careful what you say, because everything that is good is bad, and everything that is bad is good. So we're a society that's completely been turned upside down, at every whim, just blurred confusion. We don't want to offend anyone, so anything really goes. Isn't this the very reason why Babylon fell? Language at this point really has no meaning anymore. And, if you look at it, everything is really just variable. The most significant question, I think, is this. Are we, as we go about our daily lives in the start of 2017, witnessing the beginning of a new world order? I believe that we're in the middle of a really profound change, and there's really just no question about it. I mean, we're already in a time where we're getting into merging man and the machine, with the mass amount of microchipping, with us getting acclimated to it in our debit cards, our credit cards. This whole thing is just on the rise, and it's making it more convenient, I guess, to do a lot of different things. And many employees are actually getting microchips and in their bodies. They're just basically getting acclimated to this system. This month in the National Geographic magazine, they had an article entitled "How Humans Are Shaping Our Own Evolution," and there was this sort of spiel that was saying that, like other species, we are millions of years of adaptation. So millions of years. Basically was saying that we are taking things into our own hands. And interesting how actually these movies are just painting the picture for the future. I don't want to say predicting, because I think they're kind of working with the elites and kind of telling us, this is how things are going to be. Take for instance this movie Ghost in the Shell by R. Sanders, and this is the basic gist of the movie. It says, let's see, in the near future, Major, played by Scarlett Johansson, is the first of her kind, a human saved from a terrible crash, who is a cyber-enhanced, aka machine human, can we say transhumanism, to be a perfect soldier devoted to stopping the world's most dangerous criminals. When terrorism reaches a new level that includes the ability to hack into people's minds and control them, Major is uniquely qualified to stop it as she prepares to face a new enemy. Major discovers that she's been lied to, her life was not saved, it was stolen, and she will not stop at nothing to recover her past, find out who did this to her, and stop them before they do it to others. So, we're kind of seeing, where the world is really trying to go. We're seeing the blurring of lines, like I said, anything goes. So getting back to the National Geographic article they wrote on how one human trait with a strong genetic component continues to increase in value, and even more so as technology grows more dominant. The universal ambition of humanity remains greater intelligence, and that no other attribute is so desirable, no other so useful, so varied in its application. Things have so changed in the last 40 years. No one would have dreamed that they would be taking pictures with their phones, let alone have a portable phone. If you're old enough, you might remember they had like old rotary phones, or like press button phones. Now we have these small phones that are basically computers in our pockets. Our cars are our feet, our calculators are our minds, and Google is our memory. Do you understand where I'm going with this? Our lives are now partly biological, with no clear split between the organic and the technological, the carbon and the silicon. You know, we may not know yet where we're going, but we've already left where we've been, if you get what I'm saying. You know, carrying money around, a wallet, a purse, the chip is just the next, and I quote, natural state as to what is next according to tech news that's trending. We're coming into just a strange new world where soon when you go to a coffee shop, there won't be any human interaction, but a robot that will take your order and take your iris scan and know that you want a caramel macchiato. And they even have this database, which I've spoken about on length, of faces taken from all social media. And the House of Representatives is really trying to seek clarity about the reason the FBI has kind of taken this database on people, and then having a system of cameras that when you go out in public, that too can be collected, all the information, and the answers for this database is very vague, and it's ambiguous, and it's really just misleading at best. Now they're really thinking about using drones for police to use as being an airborne option for lethal force on people. And it's interesting, I actually had a dream about this where they were using these drones to basically, what I just said, just enforce in laws and lethal force on their subjects. And this is actually a bill that was in place by President Obama, and many people are just unaware of it. And get this, with more strange things that's going on in the world, even with thinking with these movies, recently they had a movie called Get Out, having to do with organ, harvesting and selling of organs. So Planned Parenthood is actually selling human body parts to the highest bidder. I know I'm kind of pretty much all over the place, but I have to get you all to know what's going on in this world and the times that we're living in. This is catastrophic and part of a collapse of civil society, if it ever was that. Another really strange thing that's occurred recently is a story about a judge, the first Muslim judge that was found floating in the Hudson Parkway in the water over in New York. And the whole story was that she committed suicide, which is just so very strange to me. What's imminent is something so drastic, so crazy. This new order of things is just going to change everything. And, when it comes to beliefs, the initial attraction of this new religious order, looking at it from a scriptural basis, Paul tells us that, the way he phrases it is that it will look like peace and safety. Paul would put it this way in 1 Thessalonians 5:3, that the message would be peace and safety. The word peace literally means the end of war and the end of conflict. There will be harmony and unity and peace on earth and goodwill towards men. And, this will be the new utopian era. The word safety means that there will be security and stability and economical security. These two things just have powerful attractions to most people because, we live in a broken and wounded and violent world that's troubled with all sorts of ugly things. And the idea that one person can come on the scene and by almost a wave of a wand or a political muscle can make all of that ugliness disappear and bring peace on earth. And most importantly, what we must keep in mind is that the word that Yahushua used was deception and delusion, that men would be deceived and that they would be deluded.